All right, second grade. We're gonna be making a cute little miniature fairy garden toadstool, kind of like a mushroom with a sweet little hedgehog in there. And to do that, you're going to begin with your small rectangle slab. A slab is a flat piece of clay, and it should always be on top of the canvas mat. If it's not on top of here, it's gonna stick to the table and you're gonna have trouble getting it off. So the first thing I'm gonna do is very gently use the palm of my hand and just tap this down a tiny bit. Okay, not smushing it. I'm still keeping it like a rectangle, just a tiny, tiny bit of a tap just to get it a little bit thinner. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to use my pin tool, which looks like this. And the pin tool is for cutting. So we have a very sharp point here, and we never want that point to be on anything but the clay. So not touching your hands, not up in the air, not at your neighbor. And I'm gonna hold this like a pencil, and right down here, let's do this upside down actually so that you can see it. I'm going to cut a generous size curve for my door, okay, so that we can get the hedgehog in there. And I'm gonna lift this piece right out. And then I can do one or two really little windows. So somewhere up here, not too close to your edges. I think I'm just gonna choose to do one. And I'm gonna make mine a circle, but if you wanna do a square or some other shape, that's okay with you. So just a really cute little house like this. And the next thing we wanna do is quickly dampen our finger just a tiny bit on the sponge and use it to smooth our edges. Because even though they don't seem like any big deal right now, when our sculpture, which is a three-dimensional piece of art that we're making, goes into the kiln, these little rough edges can get sharp and pointy. So I'm just gonna smooth those out really quickly, okay? Then I'm gonna add a little bit more to this so that my house is, you know, sort of exciting. And I'm even gonna use my leftover clay here to make excuse me, a little bit of grass on the side of my house. So I'm going to roll it in between my hands just like you would with Play-Doh. And now I'm gonna roll it on my mat using my fingers. And this shape is called a coil. You're gonna hear that word a lot in clay making art. That's a coil, kind of like a worm or a snake. Decide on your size. If it's way too big, you can use this to cut it shorter. And then I'm going to flatten it just a little bit with my finger. And I'm going to pinch it a little bit so that this looks like a blade of grass. And anytime that you want to attach anything, you need to do what's called scoring. Scoring makes one object attached to the other. So you take your pin tool, decide where this is going to go, and you just draw little lines on there. And then I'm going to flip this over and score the back of it as well. So both the object and our little house is scored. And then you're gonna need slip. Slip is in these containers at your table, and it's like really gooey, wet clay. This is like the glue. It's super important that you use this. Put some slip on the object. And then with gentle fingers, I'm gonna press that blade of grass onto my building. Maybe even bend it a little bit. Okay, if I push too hard, I'm gonna smash this, okay? So I don't wanna do that. Even this teeny tiny piece, I could use that. So I have different size blades of grass. I'm gonna flatten it out, pinch the edge, score where it's going to go. Doesn't have to be a perfect match. Score this, because you can always smooth things out. Make sure both are scored. Take your slip, put some on there. If you have too much, get rid of a little bit. And then press this down gently, don't smash it, right where I just scored. And right now I've got two blades of grass. Okay. And I think I may even do one more here, but not getting too close to my edge, and maybe one or two over here, just to make this look interesting. I can use this piece and just cut a little bit off. It's already a line like grass, so I just need to pinch it if I want to. Change the shape, maybe flatten it a tad. and use my pin tool to score it. I've already scored that, so I need to use slip. And I'm going to press that in place. Okay, if you want to do a little flower or something besides the grass, you can. You just have to make sure it's little enough to fit and that everything is slipped and scored. So there's my grass, there's my window, here's my doorway. Another thing I'm gonna do to just enhance this a little bit and make it look kind of more exciting is I'm gonna roll a couple more coils that are really thin, basically as thin as I can get them without breaking. Okay, so that's getting pretty good right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the window by scoring. Don't forget to clean this pin tool off with your fingers. And I'm also going to score that teeny little coil. I'm going to add slip all the way around and make sure that the scoring faces down. I'm going to put this around the window. You hear a little bit of a squishy sound. That means that things are attaching. If it's too big, I'm going to take the pin tool and very carefully cut that off. And kind of use my fingers inside of this to smooth out the circle very gently. And what that just did is it made my window stand out just a little bit more so that everything's not flat. It's way more exciting this way, okay? Now, don't lift yours up, but I'm tipping mine a little bit to show you what that did, okay? Just enhanced it a little bit. And then I'm going to put one around the doorway as well. So I'm just going to choose to score first, create my coil. Sometimes I start it in my hands. Make it hopefully just as thin as the first one. If it's getting too big, you can cut some off and then keep rolling this. Till it's as thin as you can get it. I'm not going to trim it yet because it has to go all the way around, but I am going to score it. You can slip either here or here, one or the other. That's your clay glue. And then make sure that the scored side is facing the scored side of the little fairy house, like that. Okay, so we're going to press that into B. I'm going to trim off any extra. I'm going to smooth gently with my fingers. If your fingers get way too wet, you need to wipe them off a little bit. Maybe even right on the inside here. I'm going to do a little bit of smoothing and pinching so that things are attached. And right now my doorway is standing out. My window is standing out, and I've got a little bit of grass. If you want to add anything else to it, you know, maybe you could even use one of these loop tools because it has a loop, and you could maybe add like polka dots, or I'm kind of thinking that I might try a flower with this. So I just kind of put that on there and spun it around to dig a piece out. And then I'm going to switch to this really thin one to make the flower petals. If you want to use these need to be shared because there's not a ton of them, but we can share, okay? And this kind of digs a design into the clay. So that's up to you if you like that, but we definitely want to build the doorway and the grass and those things first, okay? So that's an option, and I'm kind of deciding if I like that or not. I guess it's okay. But don't go too overboard with these either, okay? And actually, if you change your mind, which I'm sort of feeling that I might be changing my mind, when the clay is nice and wet, I can just smooth that out, okay? Or I could have built a flower on. That might have been, let me try that actually, a lot cuter. If I want to build a flower on, I'm going to roll a very little ball. I don't want this sticking out too much, so I want to push it to make it flatter. And then, just like before, figure out where it's going to go. Score. Score. They could also just be polka dots or something. They don't have to be flowers. Slip. Press that down. And then if I want to do the flower petals, I think I'm going to start with a coil. I'm going to cut off a couple pieces, pinch them flatter, kind of just rounding it by hand. I'll try to cut this into the shape I want, almost like a raindrop. Hold this up. Score both items. And you would do this all the way around, okay, if it's going to be a flower. So that's an option. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to go all the way around right now because I don't want to have you sitting here watch the whole thing. I want you to be able to continue. Maybe one more though. Grab, roll, kind of flatten it, pinch it, shape it a little bit with your fingers, pinch it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Score, score, slip. Don't forget the slip. Gentle press. And you can put your flower on all the way around. Okay? Then this is going to go into a plastic bag. Hold on one second. And if you feel comfortable doing it yourself, you can, or you can ask me for help. You're going to want to open this bag up wide and then kind of lift underneath the canvas with your hand. Stick your fingers underneath here and then stick your hand under here. You want to keep this flat. Open the bag wide, scoot it right in here, and we're going to store that for tomorrow. If you have any little pieces left, you can save them because we can use them for tomorrow, okay? And then raise your hand and ask for me to help you put this away.